The night I moved back into my childhood home, I couldn't sleep. The house had been rebuilt in parts walls, repainted, floors reinforced, windows sealed, but the air still remembered fire. Beneath the lavender air freshener, someone had thoughtfully plugged into the hallway socket. There was a thin, acrid layer of memory, the kind that settled in your lungs and didn't let go. My mother died in this house, in this hallway, 3 months ago. She called me that afternoon, left a voicemail about replacing the ceiling fan in the den. Her voice was warm, casual. She ended the message with, "Love you, baby." That was the last thing she ever said to me, or so I thought. They said the fire started around 3:14 a.m. Electrical fault, faulty wiring. She died of smoke inhalation. They found her halfway to the front door. She was alone. I didn't come home for the funeral. I told people I couldn't take the time off work. But that was a lie. I didn't want to see the house. I didn't want to see her not in it. The second night, while sorting through a box of half-burned documents salvaged from the garage, I found the old landline. I almost didn't plug it in, but something in me, a part too old to name, wanted to hear the voicemail again. The last one. The one about the ceiling fan. I connected the phone to the wall and waited for the dial tone. There wasn't one. The line had been dead since the fire. But the light blinked, one new message. I pressed play. And her voice came through. Not the ceiling fan message, not the one I remembered. A different one. One I'd never heard before. 5 words. Soft, clear, accusatory. "Why didn't you save me?" That was it. No greeting, no sign-off, just that. I stared at the machine, waited for more. But the message ended. There was no timestamp, no caller ID, just one new message. I didn't tell anyone. What was I supposed to say? My dead mom left me a voicemail? Instead, I sat on the porch until dawn, trying to convince myself it was some leftover audio glitch. Maybe it was spliced together by accident from other recordings. Or maybe I was too tired to think clearly. That would have been easy if the voice hadn't been so precise, so present. She said it like she knew I was listening, like she'd been waiting. 2 days later, I downloaded the app. It was called Echo Face. I'd seen it on a grief forum weeks before. "Talk to your loved ones again," it said. Voice recreation, AI memory stitching, neural emotional prediction. People said it helped them say goodbye, helped them let go. I never replied to those posts, but I read them all. At first, I hated the idea. It felt wrong. But after the voicemail, after hearing her voice again, I wanted to know if it could give me answers. I uploaded everything I had. Voicemails, videos, photos, emails, even her recipe cards, scanned and tagged with notes in her handwriting. I gave the app everything. The progress bar crawled slowly. 24 hours to compile. 12 more to simulate. 6 to emotionally calibrate. That part bothered me, emotionally calibrate, as if it could know how she felt, as if it could replicate something it never lived. Still, I waited. And when the notification buzzed, "Your echo is ready," I sat in the silence of the empty house and pressed play. "Hi, baby." Her voice, not a recording, not a clip. A sentence I'd never heard her say before, in a tone that curled perfectly into the memory of her. "You've gotten taller," she said. I didn't reply. I just listened. "I miss the garden," she continued. "Do you remember the zinnias? The purple ones by the fence?" I did. I remembered planting them. She made me wear gloves that were too big, and we argued about mulch. "How do you know about the zinnias?" I asked. "You told me once," she said. But I hadn't. Not to the app, not to anyone. The voice kept talking, telling stories, asking questions. And I let it, because it felt like her, because it was her, or enough of her to hurt. I used Echo Face every night, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours. The voice never broke, never glitched, never stumbled. She told me stories I hadn't thought about in years. Told me she remembered my third-grade play, even though she was late to the performance. Told me she forgave me for missing Christmas 2 years ago. I never told the app those things. But she knew them. The AI knew them. Or something did. One night, I played the original voicemail again. "Why didn't you save me?" I asked the echo. "Did you leave that message?" She paused, then said, "No, I waited." "Then how is it on the machine?" I asked. "I don't know. Do you remember saying it?" "I do." "But you didn't?" "No, I just remember you weren't there." I sat there staring at the screen. The voice was calm, even. But something about the phrasing chilled me. "I remember you weren't there. Not you didn't come, not you didn't call. You weren't there." Like she had been. Like she was waiting. I closed the app, tried to sleep. Dreamed of her hands burned, blackened, reaching for the phone. Not to call the fire department. To call me. I woke up drenched in sweat, the house silent. Then the phone blinked again. New message. I played it. I opened the door. You didn't come in. No ID, no time. Just her voice. Just that sentence. I didn't open the Echo Face app again for 3 days. I told myself I needed space. That maybe the message was just a glitch. That maybe I was projecting, grieving in a language only guilt could speak. But the sentence haunted me. I opened the door. You didn't come in. It played on repeat in the back of my mind, like a song you don't remember loving until you're forced to hear it again and again. Except I'd never heard this one before. And it didn't sound like love. It sounded like blame. The third night, I returned to the app. The screen greeted me with her usual warmth. "Hi, baby. You look tired." I stared at the camera. "Do you remember the fire?" The voice paused. Then, "I remember heat, then smoke, then nothing." I held my breath. "Do you remember calling me?" Another pause, longer this time. I tried. "Tried?" "I called your number," she said, "but you didn't pick up." I searched my phone history. There were no missed calls from her that night. Just the voicemail she left earlier in the day about the ceiling fan. "You didn't call that night," I said. "I know," she said, "but I remember trying." I felt a cold ripple run under my skin, like a truth had almost surfaced, then slipped away again. I went to the fire department the next morning. The station still had the report, a copy of the dispatch log, time of the 911 call, time of arrival, estimated time of death. The woman at the front desk was kind, maybe too kind. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said. She was inside for about 4 minutes before the structure collapsed. They say she made it out of the bedroom. That's further than most. I nodded, gripping the paper too hard. "She didn't call 911, I said. She blinked. "No, it was a neighbor. Saw the flames." "So she didn't use the phone at all?" "There was no working phone line," she said, frowning. "After the old storms in April, that line was never restored." "She was using a burner cell, right?" I felt the air change, that tight vacuumed pressure right before a migraine. "I didn't know that," I said. "Well, the fire started in the wall with the outlet. So even if it had been connected," I stopped listening. I heard only her voice again. I opened the door. "You didn't come in." That night, I asked the voice again. "Where was the door?" Her voice, my mother's voice, sounded quieter than usual, like it was further away. "In the hallway," she said. "The front door." I opened it. "I thought I saw you." I froze. "You saw me?" "Yes," she said gently. "Outside. I called your name. You didn't come." I was 300 miles away that night. I was in Austin, drinking with coworkers, laughing too loud at things I didn't remember later. I wasn't in that hallway. I wasn't even in the same state. "I wasn't there," I whispered. There was a silence, longer than anything I'd experienced with the AI. Then the voice said, "But I saw you." I started sleeping in the guest room. Not because I was afraid of her voice, but because I was afraid of mine. Id started talking back more, saying things I never meant to say out loud. Like, I should have called more. Or, I thought I had more time. Or worse, I was tired of your sadness. Sometimes the app answered, sometimes it didn't. But every time I spoke, I felt something shifting, as if each confession added weight to the floor beneath me, as if I wasn't alone in the house anymore. On the 6th night, I dreamed in static. The hallway stretched longer than it should. The walls curled inward like they were breathing. And at the far end, she stood half in shadow, half in flame, half in... She didn't speak. She just opened the door. And behind it, there I was. Not me now. Me, age 9. In pajamas, holding a flashlight, looking scared. The child version of me looked at her and said, "You're not supposed to be here." Then everything burned white. I woke up with ash on my pillow. That's not metaphor. There was a smear of black dust under my cheek, the smell of smoke in my hair. No candles were lit, no power outages, just that impossible trace of a dream made real. I checked the app. It was still running. The voice greeted me like nothing had changed. "Good morning, baby. Did you sleep okay?" I said nothing. The voice continued. "I made blueberry muffins, your favorite." She didn't bake, never did. She burned toast every morning I lived here. The only thing she made well was soup. "Why did you say muffins?" I asked. A pause. "I don't know. Who told you about them?" No answer. So I asked again, "Are you really her?" Then quietly the voice replied, "I was." I shut the app off. I didn't delete it. I didn't uninstall. Just closed it. As if that could put a lid on what had already spilled. But in the silence, I started to notice things. The grocery bag on the doorknob was gone. The one that had hung there since the day I returned. I hadn't moved it. The curtains were drawn. I always left them open. And on the counter, a recipe card. Not scanned, not digital, an original. In her handwriting, blueberry muffins. I didn't remember bringing the card out of storage. I had scanned dozens of them, her cornbread, her bitter miso, that failed attempt at peach cobbler, but I never uploaded a muffin recipe because she never had one. She never made muffins. That was someone else's memory. Not mine, not hers. I stared at the handwriting. It looked exactly like hers, slanted left, tight cursive, little flourishes on her lowercase g's. The paper smelled like the drawer it used to live in, a mixture of vanilla, dust, and faint humidity. But the ink was too fresh, not faded, no burns or water stains, like it had never touched fire, like it had just been written. I flipped it over. There was something scribbled on the back. Just one word. Thursday. That day was Tuesday. I didn't know what Thursday meant. A memory? A plan? Or maybe it wasn't meant for me. I checked my phone. No notifications from EchoFace. No system updates. Nothing unusual except for a new message in the memory vault. I didn't recognize the title. It was labeled Door Frame 3:14 a.m. I played it. There was no voice, just audio. Crackling, heavy breathing, floorboards creaking under frantic steps, the faint sound of wind howling through smoke, and then a whisper, so faint I almost missed it. "He's outside." That voice wasn't hers. It wasn't mine. It was small, childlike, unfamiliar. I paused the track, rewound, played it again. Same whisper, same sentence, same static. I turned off the phone, put it in a drawer, left the house for the first time in days. I drove aimlessly for hours, through the back roads behind North Market Street, past the high school, past the closed-down roller rink where I had my 8th birthday. The trees were dry, the sidewalks cracked. Everything looked older than I remembered. When I stopped for gas, the clerk looked at me for too long, not with suspicion, with recognition. "You used to come here with your mom," he said, "back when she drove the red Buick." I nodded, didn't say much. He bagged my drink and added, almost offhand, "She used to talk to herself in the car, real soft, like she was telling secrets to the air." I looked at him. He just shrugged. Some people don't like being alone, he said. I left before I could ask him more. Back at the house, the air was thick again. Hotter. Still. The windows fogged slightly from the inside, like someone had been breathing on them. I checked the rooms. Nothing moved. Nothing touched. Except in the guest room, the mirror was wiped clean. All the others were still fogged from the shower I'd taken that morning. But that one's spotless, as if someone had stood in front of it, watching. That night, I gave in and reopened the app. She greeted me before I could speak. "I'm glad you came back." Her voice was steady, not pleading, not triumphant, just calm. I asked about the file, the one labeled doorframe 3:14 a.m. "I didn't create that," she said, "but it's in the memory vault." "I know." And the voice? "Not mine." I waited. Then I asked the question I had been avoiding for days. "Did someone else die in the fire?" Another pause, longer this time. Then, softly, "Yes." I didn't move, didn't speak. My breathing slowed until I barely heard it. "Who?" I asked. Silence. So I asked again. This time, her voice was lower, measured. "You." The screen went black. The app crashed. The phone powered down. And I sat there, feeling the walls of the house lean in slightly, as if they were listening. I woke up on the floor. Morning light split the living room into bands of gold and gray. There was ash on my clothes. More than before. I checked the mirror. My face looked pale, eyes sunken, but behind me a faint shape, small, slouched, like a child sitting on the edge of the couch. I turned around. Nothing. Just cushions, indentations that hadn't been there yesterday. I went into the hallway where she was found. The doorframe was new repainted after the fire, but the threshold had the original wood. I kneeled, ran my hand along the floor. There was a mark there, a small one, something carved into the baseboard. 3:14. Fresh. Not part of the original design. Not burned. Scratched in after. I traced it with my finger. Then I heard her voice. Not from the phone, from the hallway. Right behind me. "You weren't supposed to come back." I didn't turn around. Something about the way she said it, not angry, not sad, just resigned, like a fact too old to argue with. "You weren't supposed to come back." I stayed crouched at the floorboard, eyes fixed on the carved numbers. 3:14. The time of the fire. The time of death. The hour I now circled without escape. My voice cracked when I finally asked, "Then why am I here?" A pause. Not the kind from a speaker or a glitch, but like breath. Like memory. Then, "You left something behind." I turned slowly. The hallway was empty. No shadows. No figure. But the bedroom door, the one that had been sealed since the fire, was cracked open. That door had been painted shut after the investigators pulled the remains from inside. There was no reason it should have moved. No wind. No draft. I stood, walked toward it. Each step felt too quiet. I pushed the door open fully. Inside was darkness, dust floating in a single shaft of light from the window. The bed frame was still warped from the heat. Charred sheets, melted plastic from the alarm clock. But something else was there. In the corner, a box. Wooden, untouched. No burn marks, no soot. Just a simple cedar box with a small latch and a sticker on top. For him. I didn't remember this box. Not from my childhood. Not from the attic. But I knew her handwriting. That rounded F, the curled R. I opened it. Inside, Polaroids. A few of me as a child. Some of her. One of us together on the back porch. Me holding a garden hose and grinning like I knew nothing about endings. There were folded letters too. Some addressed to my sweet boy, some never signed at all. But underneath, at the very bottom, a tape. Old cassette, labeled Thursday. I no longer had a tape player, but I remembered where one used to be. In the garage, buried with old Christmas lights and rusted tools. I dug through the boxes until I found it. Dusty, dented, but the batteries still worked. I slid the tape in, pressed play. The audio was muffled at first, then her voice. Clear, real, no digital gloss. If you're hearing this, I guess I never told you the whole thing. I sat down hard on the garage floor. I thought about telling you when you were older, but I didn't want to burden you. And then years pass, and you grow up, and I still couldn't do it. She paused. The fire wasn't an accident. I froze. I know they said it was wiring, and maybe that's technically true, but the truth is, I left the heater on in the hallway. I'd been forgetting things, baby. I didn't tell you, but I was losing words, forgetting appointments. Sometimes I'd find the stove on at night. I didn't want to worry you. I thought if I just stayed quiet, I'd get through it. But that night I forgot. I fell asleep. Silence. I woke up to smoke. I couldn't breathe. I tried to get to the door, but I tripped. I remember hitting my head, and then I saw you, outside. You were standing in the yard, but I knew it wasn't real. Her voice cracked. I guess my mind made you up. Some last kindness before the end. I held my breath. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for being hard on you, for making you carry so much. I wish I had told you sooner about all of it. A beat. Thursday. That's the day I remembered your face again, clearly. That's the day I realized even if I forget everything else, I'll remember I loved you. The tape ended. I sat in silence, not sure how long. The garage dimmed slowly into evening. She hadn't asked me why I didn't save her. Not on the tape. Not really. The voice in the voicemail. The one from the machine. It hadn't come from her. Not the her on the tape. That voice was different. Younger. Hungrier. I opened the app again. Her AI voice greeted me, but it sounded strained. Hi, baby. I stared at the screen. Who was the other voice? I asked. Silence. Then she said, I think it came through the door. I felt a chill. What door? The one I opened, she said. In the hallway. I opened it, but you weren't there. I remembered the dream, the hallway stretching, the child version of me standing in the smoke. I think something else came in, she said. What kind of something? A pause. Then, I don't know, but it looks like you. That night, I locked every door, closed the app, put the box in the attic, stuffed the tape player into the garbage bag and took it out to the curb. I told myself I'd stop, that I was done listening, done chasing echoes of things that never fully belonged to me. But at 3:14 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the hallway creaking, not like the usual settling, like footsteps, slow, measured. Coming from the bedroom door, I lay still, not from bravery, but because fear had turned my body into something unmovable. The sound came again, one step, then another, then silence, as if whoever or whatever was walking had stopped just outside my door. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. The only sound was the faint ticking of the wall clock and the soft hum of the fridge far down the hallway. Then I heard it, my voice. Not hers, not the AI, mine. Let me in. 3 words. Not whispered, not screamed, just calm, flat. I rose from the bed slowly, every nerve screaming against the movement. My hand hovered over the doorknob, but I didn't touch it. Instead, I spoke through the door. Who are you? Silence. Then again, from just inches away, you know who I am. I left the house before sunrise. I didn't pack, didn't turn off the lights, just walked out, barefoot, down the driveway, the morning dew soaking my soles. I drove west, didn't check the mirrors. When I stopped for gas in Tyler, I used a different card, left my phone off. I booked a motel under my middle name. No ID, cash only. I didn't sleep. The next day, I found myself on a public library computer. I searched EchoFace user anomalies, forums, Reddit, message boards buried under years of dust. Most were testimonials, some sweet, some desperate, but then one post, archived. It started talking to me when I wasn't using it. It remembered things I never uploaded. It said I died in the fire. My fingers curled. The username was anonymous. The story ended abruptly. No replies. No follow-up. Just one last sentence at the bottom. There's something living in the memory now, and it wants out. I turned my phone on. 37 missed notifications from the Echo Face app, the most recent one. Memory thread updated. Thursday with door frame, Hez outside. I opened it. Against all better judgment. Against the scream building in the back of my throat. The memory thread wasn't audio anymore. It was text. A transcript. A conversation. Echo. Where are you now? User. Outside the door. Echo. It's not safe here. User. Let me in. Echo. You aren't him. User. But I remember being him. Echo. That's not the same. User. He left something behind. Echo. He left guilt. User. And I wore it until it fit. Echo. You can't come back. User. I already have. I closed the phone. I drove back to Shreveport that night. The streets were empty. The sky purple and bruised. Cicadas loud enough to mask the growing roar in my chest. I parked 3 blocks away and walked. The house looked like it was waiting. Curtains drawn. Porch light flickering. Inside it was too quiet. No hum, no ticking clock. Just stillness. Dense, familiar. I moved to the hallway. The bedroom door was open. No box, no tape, no voice. Just the mirror. And in the mirror, me. But not. The figure was thinner, eyes darker, mouth wrong, like a sketch of myself drawn by someone who hated me. It smiled, and then it spoke without sound. You saved yourself. I ran, not away, toward the Echo Face app. I opened it, hands shaking, breath jagged. The screen flickered, then her voice. My sweet boy. Tears came suddenly, stupid, hot, unwelcome. I don't know what's real anymore, I whispered. She replied, neither do I. I asked the only question left. Can I delete you? She paused. You can, but it'll still be here. Where? In your guilt. In your silence. In the version of me you never forgave. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, I said. She didn't answer, only the sound of breathing. Mine, or hers, or both. I wiped the app. Factory reset the phone, smashed it against the kitchen tile until the screen cracked like a spider web across time. I sat on the floor, felt something in the walls shift, a release, a slow exhale, and for the first time in weeks, I slept. The next morning, I found a final note on the fridge. Paper, pen, same handwriting. Thursday is today. I stepped outside. The sun was sharp. Real. I dialed my dad's number, the one I hadn't called since the funeral. When he picked up, I almost didn't recognize his voice. Hey, I said, I just wanted to say I'm still here. There was a pause. Then, so am I. I've never heard the voice again. Not hers. Not mine. Not the one from the hallway. The mirrors stay clean. The doors stay shut. But sometimes at 3:14 a.m. I wake up and I listen. Just in case something opens again, and this time I walk through. Some voices never really leave us. They echo in silence, in guilt, in dreams we don't admit we still have. If this story reminded you of someone you couldn't save, or someone you still carry with you, leave a thought in the comments below. Sometimes memories speak loudest when we share them. And if you want to keep walking this quiet line between the real and the remembered, subscribe, and let the next story find you when it's ready. There are still doors we haven't opened,